Mr. President, I must admit that I'm looking forward to the local government debates because my good mayor here is on form and prepared. I thought at one point that the election was going to be called because he was on a serious campaign. I think Prime Minister Holness also meant it when he was told, call it, Andrew, call it in 2011. And having called it, what was expected to be a landslide victory became a landslide defeat. And young people time. But equally, whether or not side A or side B will be successful is not a basis for calling an election. Maybe it is true that the PMP should not want an election, but that's not a basis for calling an election.
That's right.
Maybe it's factual that the JP will win landslide, but that's not a basis for calling an election. The basis of calling an election is based on a principle that people should be heard and that your performance should be judged. If it is found that your performance in the market, in Papine, was worthy of votes in Papine, it will recur to your benefit. If it is found that the what's her name? Senator Venetia Phillips, who's the PMP councillor, who's the PMP's, I'm making some proposals. Yes, Delhi have surprised me, I must say. But if it is that Councillor Venetia Phillips was perceived by the people to be the key practitioner, it will resound to her or the PMP's benefit. But none of that is the reason for calling an election. In fact, I put it to you that the people in Constant Spring Market that you took away and displaced, they may want to vote against. Though the people in wherever else may want to vote for. Well, you say it's in action because maybe you have the document of the agreement, but I also have the demonstrations that they mounted against it in action. And so therefore agreement is not only in words, agreement is also in action. We have before us some arguments since Tuesday that has been polluted with lies and deception, stink of disrespect, and rank with delusions of grandeur. Because what you're putting forward, your intellect is not sufficient to take everybody for fool. You'd have to be intellectually superior to a level unquestionable that anything you say, regardless of how ridiculous it is naturally accepted because you can spin a tale better than everybody else. I'm going to first look at what is the reasons being proposed and put to the public and to the Senate that these reasons are not sufficient. I don't know the full details of 2003. In 2003, I was at the university. I wasn't a full participant in politics. But equally, nothing suggests that 2003 had to be correct. And the way I learn it is that reversed unfairness is not fairness. So if it is that you unfortunately had to wait 10 years, the reverse is not fair. That is you. But we should do a survey to see if no one had a problem with it. In fact, if we should follow the arguments of the JLP, which needs a time machine, then when they change the law for the murder law or the firearms law, and the judge said 40 years for murder, the person in front of the judge should say, but oh, John did get 10. That 40 years shouldn't apply. Because in 2016 and 27 and 2093 and 92, Mary got 6, so oh, me forget 40. And the judge will rightly say that you're getting 40 because things have changed and times have changed. Right. You're getting 40 because the law has changed. That's right. And that law change was in full agreement with the Jamaica Labour Party. But the Jamaica Labour Party and its leadership is not true. And notice I didn't say not truthful. But to the principles that they expose, they're not true. Now I see everybody is in support of 3-in-1 and 2-in-1 and combination, combo package, go large with the referendum. Now in 2020, there was the ability to combo. Because in 2020, local government selection would have become due. Where was everybody knocking the table in the ears of the Prime Minister, who called the general election prior to its due date? Why wasn't it combined then, when the uncertainty of the times were greater than now? If I don't want to be distracted, I'm still at Portmore. I hear the Minister Arnaldo Alando, who is in East Central St. Catherine. He claims that one reason for the delay is that there are some areas within his constituency that isn't represented by the Portmore mayor. I don't understand what's the problem with that. Because they are represented by a mayor. Exactly. The St. Catherine mayor. In fact, I've never seen a conversation about people that have nothing to do with the people. The truth is that the JLP wants the St. Catherine Council, for which if the PMP holds Portmore as a part of St. Catherine, they will unlikely get. And the PMP wants to maintain St. Catherine Council, for which if Portmore is not a part, they might not keep. The whole quarrel around Portmore have nothing to do with Portmore. Wait a minute. You don't have a house in Portmore, you know, so you can't talk to me. I am a citizen of Portmore. Now, hold on now. Hold on. He claims. Hold on, man. Yes. He claims, one debate at a time. I say you're going hard, bad enough. He claims, Minister Arnaldo Turlang, friend of mine, Hertfordshire Primary, that those two seats are underrepresented if we should go with an election at this time. But for some reason, the JLP has decided to sacrifice 15 areas without representation for a improved, in their minds, representation of 2 places with representation. Let I tell you, the 15 places that have no representation at present, that are people not less deserving than what you claim for Portmore. I'm going to give you the 15. Okay. In St. James, Catadupa, the councillor was removed by default due to absenteeism. When Charlie was making that statement, when Senator Sinclair was making that statement, remember when he was leading that action, he suggested at the time that in short order, the people will receive, not by-election, representation. In short order, make we talk. In St. James, Cambridge. No, I said Catadupa first. But Cambridge is now serving as an MP. That was a former mayor. Omar is now serving as a mayor. The people have no representation in Cambridge. Some people will claim that when the person is removed, the mayor steps in. It was not the intent of the law for the mayor into perpetuity. For one, the mayor has his own area to represent. Additionally, for two, nobody voted for the mayor. Well, we don't know. You don't predict economic uncertainty. Economic uncertainty. I don't know if Russia going to invade Germany next. You don't predict economic uncertainty. You don't predict if another wave of COVID comes. So it wasn't intended for 3 years and 4 years and 5 years. This is what is happening. In St. James, Salt Spring, removed by default due to absenteeism. So in St. James, well on a man, in St. James, President, Mr. President, give me some protection.
Give Senator Morris protection.
In St. James,
3 out of 17 divisions.
not only 3 unrepresented, the mayor now has 4 divisions that he must oversee with no knowledge of the people and no vote by the people. At least if it was Portmore, the elected would have received some support from those people in those areas. He has none. Let me go again.
Number 4.
In Westmoreland, so we're going 3. White House, that councillor, Mr. President, has resigned. In Petersfield, that MP is now the JLP's representative and a member of parliament. That councillor is now a member of parliament. In Manchester, Knockpatrick, that councillor has died. In St. Elizabeth, none of them is there, sorry. In St. Catherine, Greater Portmore East, that councillor have died. In Point Hill, that councillor have died. In Spanish Town, that councillor have resigned. I think also migrated. Sorry, resigned and I think migrated. In Spanish Town. In Clarendon, Mineralites, that councillor have died. In St. Mary, Retreat, now serving as an MP. In Trinityville, that councillor have died. In Fellowship, that councillor have died. In Fairy Hill, that councillor have died. To this point, 14. When you put undue stress, now the mayor from Kingston may not understand the requirements, because in Kingston I see none. So maybe that is why you don't recognize that importance. Now let I tell you from my experience, within certain constituencies, there are differences so stark that local representation is the only true viable way to represent their true and total interests. I draw on East Rural St. Andrew, for example. Harborview is so different from Mavis Bank that Mavis Bank needs someone who understands. Let me tell you what happened when there is a hurricane in East Rural St. Andrew. A hurricane in East Rural St. Andrew have landslide in the hills, Mavis Bank and Garden Town. Look at Drizzle. It have flooding in the center, Kintyre. And it have storm surge on the flat, Dallas and Harborview. A person must be equipped to deal with all three. And many times a single person cannot understand all three. So, fine. I won't tell you about the computer center that was left to go into derelict and disrepair. I won't tell you about the park that was left to go into disrepair. I won't tell you about the education programs that were thrown up and discarded, the night schools. I'm saying that there are areas that I depended even on the JLP counselor to understand, yo, Shine, what's the situation? Very, very challenging. You know, I have areas where those people don't have representation. I hear Councillor Sinclair say, oh God, he go from 2005 and he's been fighting and he don't get the land. You have to tell him where you get the land because you gave it to the parliament. But I'm saying that there are 14. There are 40. Yeah, teach him. Because if you don't get the land, they will vote him out. So make sure you show him how to get the land. And give him some too with the way up. There are 14 without a person that can make equal representation. That a person that they cannot go to say, let us try this or that or the other. There are 14 at this point. And even if your opinion is that some underperformed, that is one of the outcomes of an election that I can choose not to keep those who underperform. I hear this foolishness that Portmore need to be a parish. The local government election does not prevent Portmore from being a parish. It does not prevent Portmore from being a parish. But I go further. What did you say? What did he say? People support his inaction? What he said? PJ said? I can't even remember. All right, that's what you said. No, I don't remember what you said. Because you know we do put people first. So therefore, when you say put people first, is in action. A reasonable action is to run a referendum within this local government for Portmore to say if they want to be a parish and how they want to be represented if they are a parish. You have not done that. You have a consultation with 28 people over 3 consultations. And you, I know what I love with the JLP. When them said not true, it might be 29. It might be 30. Like no, one man they passed through at 12 and then he left. But it wasn't 200. So when you talk about combined referendum, Portmore should have the ability, not based on the fight over St. Catherine, to say we want to be a parish. And if we're a parish, we want direct elections or no direct elections. Or we want whatever, we don't know. Why is it that for Portmore, you have delayed an election when to be a parish Portmore isn't prevented? It's not being prevented. Equally, you want to tell me that your agenda 1, Portmore, is more important than your agenda 2, the economy? You have placed that the order of priority. All right. That I didn't want to hear. I just wanted confirmation. Because you don't know. You don't go meeting. No, but wait. If Portmore is not priority 1, then how long we have to wait on the economy priority 2? If Portmore is not priority 1, then how long do we have to wait on what this is? High level of global uncertainty. Which is nobody knows. So even, okay, we soon come to that. We soon come to that. So even if, no, but wait, no. Yeah, man, we soon deal with the context of COVID-19. Because we had a general election within the context of COVID-19. Good. At the peak. Okay. All right, let us use a more refined word. There is uncertainty about your timeline because there is none other than Portmore that you have control over. You have no control. All right. Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why there's uncertainty. Let me tell you why there's uncertainty. 1 second. Mr. President, there must be uncertainty within proposed dates if proposed reasons are not in control of the people proposing the dates. So if you say one reason is that there is global uncertainty, you are not in control of global uncertainty. So therefore you cannot predict with any certainty, by extension giving uncertainty, to when this will be removed. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I've also heard the JLP claim, in particular Senate Minister Turlang, that with this change, the people in those two areas will then get full representation under Portmore. I don't know how he came to that conclusion because the boundaries have not yet been defined. There's nothing to suggest that where he is will not be in St. Catherine. So unless the JLP have predetermined boundaries, I don't know how they come to a conclusion. Because a community, let me give you something where, stop disturbing me. Let's go. Make I hear you. All right? So there's no way because of what? Because peace of it can, hold on. Mr. President, the only method of which disqualifies a cut is cross parish. That's the only method. That Kingston cannot go into St. Thomas, Clarendon cannot go into St. Catherine. That's the only thing that disqualifies. No. There is no Portmore. There is no actual boundary where that two areas that he speaks of doesn't fall in the current boundary of Portmore. Do I really have to yield, Mr. President?
I'll soon tell you. Yes, Senator Rodriguez Campbell Rodriguez.
I just don't want us, Mr. President, speaker to mislead people. Portmore currently has borders. So to give the impression there are no borders for Portmore, and they were done. So to say that there are no borders is incorrect. Please do not mislead.
Senator Rodriguez Campbell, thank you. Senator, continue, please.
Absolute ridiculous. I have to respond. No. Portmore as is.
1 minute. Senator Brown, would you give Senator Crawford a chance to complete his presentation, please?
And education, not just presentation, education. Portmore as is not a parish. So Portmore cannot have parish boundaries.
That's right.
Indeed, an argument put forward is that the re-boundary effort is a part of what makes it necessary to decide where people will fall after the election. So therefore, if it is that Portmore is not yet a parish, there can be no actual basis to say those in St. Catherine cannot be in Portmore and those in Portmore cannot be in St. Catherine because Portmore is not yet a parish.
Simple.
And that was stated. Yeah. Sometimes, yeah. They say a word to the wise is sufficient, but a library to the foolish is a disrespect. All I'm saying is that what you put here don't make sense. The high level of uncertainty in the global economy and the economic environment, which may have domestic implications, requires government to focus at this time at building resilience to possible future shocks, as well as setting the country on a path to sustained growth. I don't see how local government stops that. I'm not sure if the Minister of Finance is a candidate in the local government. I'm not sure if the Prime Minister is a candidate in the local government. It seems they're saying that because they will feel a duty to campaign, that duty will be prioritized over their responsibilities as ministers, and therefore by extension will put the country at risk. That's a ridiculous argument. But let us look at some countries that had elections in the global uncertainty. In the global uncertainty, Barbados had election. Weren't they in the same global?
Yeah.
Dominica had election.
Yeah.
Not in the same global?
Yeah. Same global.
St. Lucia, St. Kitts, Grenada, Antigua, they had election. Were they not? Guyana.
United States of America.
I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that. Jamaica. Where's the global? Wasn't worse then? So no principle. What you are putting forward is untruthful and malicious and unable to be accepted. But additionally, in times of crisis, the people should be allowed to choose who leads them in that times of crisis. In times of crisis, on the basis that we choose who lead you. The people should decide who take up them garbage in times of crisis.
That's right.
Because for now, garbage has not been prioritized by that government. The people should be able to say who delivers their rural water in times of crisis. So what is this basis that if there is a crisis, then we should now move from a democracy to an autocracy until the crisis ends? Is that what number 3 is saying?
That's exactly what
You say you are not calling it because you have a crisis being faced.
as if they can control the crisis. No, man, you're talking too
No.
much, Senator Williams.
The other thing I want to know is if local government is less important than central government.
Have always been.
Well, the country need to hope that it is so. Because if it is not so, then these same arguments may be used for general elections as well. Because if local government is of equal importance to general election, then the arguments being used for the constant delay may be extended to the general election.
It's the same environment.
The same global environment, the same uncertainty, the same cost. So we go into number 3. They said the cost, high monetary cost of holding the elections, which requires budget. Let us look at this cost. $1.7 billion. Senator Webby, you will remember, December 2022, the Prime Minister with great fanfare announced that Christmas spending to Member of Parliament would be 21 million per Member of Parliament. You multiply that by 63, that's 1.3 billion. Was that Christmas spending to MPs mainly because you had a vast majority of MPs? That bolo work more important than democracy?
No.
That was money that you choose to spend.
Yeah.
Just 2 months ago. We come again.
They say they don't have any money.
The minister trying to find somewhere to catch former prime ministers of the Jamaica Labour Party said that he is renewing our monetary notes, costing us, some say, almost $2 billion. The only thing introduced of truth is a $2,000 bill, which is of no moment. $1,000 bill is a $2,000 bill. So their truth, their personal benefit is that they could now put pride of place on their representative somewhere on the money. That costs almost $2 billion. Is that more important than local government election?
Question, answer that.
Is that more important than the local government election?
Is it? Ask again.
Senator, mayor, debater also said that the new parliament is going to be grand and beautiful. Is the new parliament more important than the democratic process? Is that so?
That should have been
I
from much years ago.
Allow him to.
let's go further. Let's go further. He economic environment, and I heard, oh, some people, they lost their jobs, and some people, they lost their business. We know we were at the center. But I can tell you that elections create economic activity. A nice jump for the economy would be you everywhere spending in the bars. I've seen you.
Yes.
I've seen you in Bull Bay. I'm hiding, but I've seen you. Yes, I'm hiding. I don't want you to know that I'm there. And the money being given out to the people who are the poorest is a good little spending. And the money for the t-shirts and the meetings. And the money for the transportation creates. How much time Senator Del Rey got to talk? 7?
Speakers.
So when you
Mr. President, oh, that's all you thought, right? Mr. President, it's 3 enough.
No.
The speaker's time having expired, might he be allowed the time to wrap up his presentation, which will hopefully be.
The question is that this, thank you, Minister. The question is that the speaker be given time to complete his presentation. Those in favor?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I've learned my lesson. I'm not going to hurry up and then when the bill go through a year that it came before us and we never talk about everything. I talk about everything. So that when it come out with the child seat, I did talk about that too. I don't want it to be said that I never talk about everything. So additionally, the Prime Minister said recently that he found within the budget sufficient funds that he did not have to take a loan that was already approved by the Chinese government for the Montego Bay bypass. Yes. He said in his presentation, this is good for Jamaica. Even in a pandemic, we're able to develop our infrastructure with the resources of the people. That's what he said. He said, even in a pandemic. That's what I keep hearing him saying, pandemic. He then made a choice as a Prime Minister to refuse a pre-approved loan, agreed loan of $43 billion, and said that the budget was strong enough to fund it. And somehow you're coming before us now that the same budget is not sufficiently strong to fund something 20 times less. Something 20 times less. So, yes. So, and that is the point that we're making. That the people's choices should be a priority. The democratic process should be a priority. Satisfactory representation should be a priority. It is not up to the person holding power to retain power until he feels that there is no basis for a new priority.
That's right.
What Senator Sinclair came here with were two mutually exclusive concepts, because local government and general elections are not on the same cycle. One is on a 4-year cycle. One is on a 5-year cycle. So if you claim you agree to fix elections, then it is unlikely that the two cycles will coincide, other than maybe every 8 years or some mathematical thing where they will combine at some point in time. So to that extent, to claim that you have no problem with fixed elections, which the JLP has been stating over and over.
But no action.
But they have gone, you used to say 360 minimum go back the same direction. He has gone 180. Because this is not fixed election we're talking about. We're talking about due election. Yeah. Due election means this is the deadline for it. You could have called it before, but this is the deadline. Yeah. If you believe in fix,
then you should believe in due election.
Then you have a pass due for reach fix.
Absolutely.
A person who believes in fix must hold themselves to do.
That's it. Simple logic.
But that has not been done. Let us give you some of the statements that you have made. It says, the time to change the system to fix election date is now. Within our first 100 days of government, we will start the legislative process to fix the general election date in Jamaica. This will bring greater certainty to political process. Andrew Holness said that February 10th, 2016. 2016. Jamaica Prime Minister Andrew Holness has revealed that plans are on track for fixed election date. He said this in 2018.
That's on that truck in Ohio.
Holness told Parliament, and I quote, during his contribution to the budget debate in 2018, that he had instructed Justice Minister Delroy Chuck to table a ministry paper and draft legislation for the fixing of election dates. Now to this date. But to this date, no. Well, he might have to either fire Minister Chuck or accept that he was being untruthful. Because the two cannot come together, the two cannot stand.
Job description wasn't met.
He says,
Remember the job description?
listen what he said. If the country is serious about fiscal discipline, a fixed election date would be a necessary step. Now you're coming with the opposite. You're saying that your conversation about fiscal discipline would mean that election should be delayed. He said, I quote, if the country is serious about fiscal discipline, a fixed election date would be a necessary step. He goes further. He goes further. He goes further. No, Prime Minister Holness. He goes further. Not having fixed election dates come as a significant cost to business and delays our growth agenda. That is opposite to what we have in this paper. That's number 3 in reverse. That's number 2 in reverse. Both 2 and 3. He said, let I tell you, I can't look. A significant cost to business. A significant cost to business. Hold on a minute. All right. Voila. Our growth agenda. I'm going to take a deep breath. Because the student is disrespectful. Give us some time. The ability to afford is based on our ability to grow. The Prime Minister himself, with the failed 5 and 4, suggested that the economy's growth would lead to more funds available to do the priorities of the society. So therefore, that part about we are being able to grow will make we can afford it. The impact on business will lead to destabilization in business uncertainty. That is why that is number 2 and 3. But it's opposite to something in what we put in here now. Opposite to something. He says further, fiscal discipline and obeying our fiscal rules, election can no longer be allowed to supervene a fiscal cycle. Neither should the country be disrupted by protracted periods of uncertainty. Wasn't the last 5 months total uncertainty?
Yes.
Everybody either prepared, unprepared. If the gleaner never bust say it now and keep, we wouldn't know say it now and keep. With the minister of security just randomly saying, you know, so we don't think it will keep because, you know, we're not too nothing right now. Then he comes. Neither, I'm quoting, on the silent thing, neither should the country be disrupted by protracted periods of uncertainty, mobilizing, demobilizing, and then mobilizing again according to the political expediency. In the last 3 years, you come here 3 times for which we mobilized and demobilized and mobilized and demobilized. The hypocrisy of liars is based on a seared conscience. Seared conscience. What do you mean not true? The duty of those not in power is to prepare for power. Yes, we were mobilized. I was on the road. Youth, that's why I see you in Bull Bay. I saw you. I saw you in Bull Bay. No. Alright, let me just clear up something. If I use what is right for my advancement, I am still right. If you use what is wrong for your advancement, you are still wrong. So all of them think about remove Mark, one is doing it to keep Andrew. And by extension, one wrong. Yeah, one wrong. Yeah. Now the people want to vote about him. The people want to vote him out. They want to vote him out. I think we'll get some vote from the IC. From the IC. Well, I know. Nobody. I like to do this. Yes, ma'am. Come again. Leaders, in 2020, me all right. In 2020, one thing, the truth might be an offense. It's not a shame. Leaders commit to legislation for fixed election dates. Rebutting Phillips, Prime Minister and leader of JLP, Andrew Holness, said fixed election dates remain an aspiration of his government. Defending, this is the new word that I like to say, an aspiration. If it is an aspiration and you have the power to do it, do it. Do it. It's a lie from the bottom of the pit of hell. Yes, man. When you process, he promised the end of that process in 100 days. 2,500 days. He has had 25 periods. Let me tell you what I don't understand. You don't understand that some people want to know how bold money get taken at SSL and what was the relationship with the government at the present. That's what people want to know. Yeah?
Damian. Senator Crawford.
Oh. But when Brick did a lay, never gone far.
Senator Crawford. Senator Crawford. It's my intention to break, you know. Can you give me an idea as to how long you have left?
Soon done, soon done.
What you call, sir?
Soon enough for you to break.
So take the break or...
No, sir, I'll be finished soon.
Okay.
Don't break now that we're talking about the real reasons.
Come again?
The real reasons. The real reasons. I can imagine, but this one still I taught the truth.
That's right.
The truth is not always exciting or comfortable. They said, well, I stated, at least if it's one thing we achieve to show the lies that are being told. They said, and in addition to that, you may not know that we have placed training and all these things. JLP calls for fixed election date. This is November 19, 2015. November 19, 2015. November 19, 2015. Leader of opposition business in the Senate. You know who that was? Tom Tavares Finson. Called for fixed election dates. Yes. This was agreed to by the Prime Minister, who posted it on his Facebook page on the 19th. Senator said in a release that this will, quote, be a means of ensuring that Jamaicans who want to vote are not disenfranchised by the whims and fancies of the touch of any Prime Minister and their masters.
Right.
What has changed?
Something has changed.
What has changed now? Senator Finn, it's a good thing in our vote. You have vote no. Fixed election dates would mean that there is proper alignment of the enumeration period and elections. We also know that disenfranchising 37,000 young Jamaicans will not contribute to bringing more people closer to participation and contribute to the distrust and apathy Jamaicans has towards the process. That is what you just said.
Yes. Supported by
Senator Finson was in agreement.
You know that my view has changed because of the experience of the United Kingdom.
Don't get yourself involved in the debate.
No, but you're using me as somebody that used to support.
I'm using history, not you, sir. I'm using history.
I look at, yes, because I've looked at the British. I looked at the British experience, English experience with fixed election date.
Yes.
And I'm not happy with the way it has panned out at all for them. It's not suiting the... If you copy, come again.
All right. So you say you have changed your mind.
No, I don't want to take... You see what Senator Brown is saying is that I have copy. I don't copy anything. I had a view. And that view was that fixed election date would suit our democracy. When I look at the experience elsewhere, I have changed my view. And one is entitled to change their view because that is the nature of intellectual growth.
So therefore, sir, the Prime Minister and the Jamaica Labour Party should come to state that they have changed their view.
I'm not talking to the Prime Minister. I'm talking for me who you drawing an argument, not the Prime Minister.
You, sir. You said something for which history proves that this side is not consistent as the truth would be. That's all that happened. What you said, what the Prime Minister said, what that side said is not consistent in what is being put forward today. It is actually total opposite of what is being put forward today. And the basis of that principle are the opposite of what you said at this particular point in time. And so therefore, because Portmore, if they want, should be able to decide with a referendum, because it can still be a parish, even if an election is called, because there are 15 or 14 others without representation, which is not the same for Portmore, which have their representation, their mayor and their councillors. Because this whole fight about the parish is not for the parish. Because economic affordability cannot be an excuse for the democratic process not being adhered to. Because in worse times, elections were called by the same party and the same Prime Minister. Because other countries have held their own elections in this global uncertainty, and they are outperforming Jamaica at this time. I hear them saying all kind of thing about miracle and all kind of thing. And they have been putting out Senator Scott Motley that the Financial Times have said that how well we are doing. And it is a miracle. It's a miracle. The people should be allowed to say they agree or disagree. Because there's other information out there. The highest GDP growth in 2022. Jamaica is not in the top 30. So if Jamaica is the miracle, then Guyana, 57.8, Fiji, 12.5, Seychelles, Barbados, 10.5. Barbados is fourth. If Jamaica is not in the top 30, Barbados is what then? Super miracle. Super miracle. Barbados had an election. They're growing at 10.5. Same economic circumstance. But wait, St. Kitts, did they have an election? Yes. They're at 5th. Jamaica not in the top 30. Hold on again. St. Lucia, did they have an election? Yes. Okay, good. IMF ranking, they're at 7th. Jamaica not in the top 30. So what you're claiming have not proven itself to be true. Because 3 of the countries that had elections in this global uncertainty is outperforming Jamaica at this point. GDP growth rate as per real GDP in annual percentage change as of October 2022. We can only state what is the, you don't want to use what they think should be used. This is the IMF report. The top 30, you're not in it. You're not in it. And these people had elections. Had elections. In 2020, yeah, I know. You know what this is like? When the people say, did SSL fund the JLP? Their response was, we don't have an account with SSL. We never asked if you bank with them. We asked if they bankrolled you. 2021, Babylon. 2022, I just quoted. So you come now to rebut me with 2021. Let me just stop. Yes, you have to do it in the closure. All I'm saying is, the evidence stands against what you're saying. Your past utterances stand against what you're saying. The principle of democracy stands against what you're saying. The only reason this can be done is because you have the numbers and the people may want to change that. Right. Give the people what they want.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Senator Crawford. The Senate will now rise for 30 minutes.